Do 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 do. Hey there, welcome to the Super Sully Sunday stream, 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern, here from the hub of the multiverse, Boston, Massachusetts, United States of America, North America, planet Earth, third stone from the sun, in the Sol system, which is nestled in the outer spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, which is part of this local group of galaxies, inside the Virgo cluster of galaxies, inside an even larger structure known as the Laniakea supercluster of galaxies, inside the known universe, which could be one terracotta tile in a huge mosaic known as the multiverse of all possibilities. Welcome to the show. What's the title of the show again? Star Trek San Diego Comic-Con announcements, new comics reviews. That's the rumor. That's allegedly what we're talking about today on the show. There you go, Pikachu. Just your view. We got the head of Cecil in the background. No, it's a Cecil mask. Who is Cecil? Who isn't Cecil? Cecil Jones. If Cecil says, he's a funny guy, an internet funny guy, internet celebrity. I got to meet him a couple of years ago. Nice guy. He follows me on Twitter X. I follow him. He's a master of dirty jokes. We're very, very much alike. Peers, one could say. He's only a year or two older than me. We are the same era of comic books and movies and pop culture. I dig the hell out of Cecil. I really do. And we're going to talk a little bit about Star Trek today. And see how long I can go until it's time for supper. Yeah. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you. Viva Boston Fan Expo trailer for Starfleet Academy looks shite. Cheers. Indeed. LLAP, James. Live long and prosper. IDIC, in infinite diversity are infinite combinations. Id Plebnista. Hello, Snortapoopus. Good to see you. I'm a little bit mellow right now. I think I gotta ride this out. I ate just a tiny bit more than one gummy. Usually, I only do one gummy because I figured out that's my sweet spot. But I was feeling gluttonous and I was feeling like, hey, it's almost showtime. It's like have one and a half like you used to. I'm kind of like not having it. I might cut the show early and go lie down. Yeah. I mean, just these things really kick my ass sometimes. And I shouldn't want to put on a bad show just because, or something that can be clipped too. I mean, seriously, we live in the age of being, under the specter of our peers and others as part of our community. I mean, being part of like a online, non-delusional, parasocial, circle and culture of people. What circles am I part of? I know who are my mutuals and who I've made in real life friendships with, and I know how big the pond is. The pond being, that's a metaphor. The pond being how big our ecosystem is, how big our land and resources are, and our population. This world of ours. I wonder how many new Star Trek fans there are in this world since 2009. 2009 is when J.J. Abrams and his Bad Robot production company got hold of the Star Trek license, and so they made 3 movies set in something called the Kelvin timeline. What is the Kelvin timeline? Well, from 1966 to 2005, you have the Gene Roddenberry, Rick Berman era. Brandon Braga, Ronald Moore era of Star Trek from 1966, the beginning of the original series, to its early 1970s animated TV show, which is like the fourth year of their 5-year voyage. Maybe you can even kind of creatively extend that one season of the animated show into those 2 years, because Star Trek lasted only 3 seasons. And then came 1979. Well, and also in the mid 70s, there was also a huge potential for the property for Star Trek. There was supposed to have been something called Star Trek Phase 2, a second live-action television show set on the refit Enterprise, a second 5-year voyage with a new crew, with some old familiars here and there. But that evolved, or as Kevin Feige would say, that got plussed into what we know is 1979's Star Trek The Motion Picture, a very misunderstood masterpiece, I feel. Heck, Star Trek's For the Voyage Home and Star Trek the Motion Picture, the Star Trek 1, none of the Enterprise crew fires a shot in anger or even duty, in line of duty. There is no aggressive posturing from Starfleet or the Enterprise or Kirk. There's no fights, really. There's a little bit of, there's that Chekhov scene where he tries to use the stun and, and then has to chase away the chase scene away from the crew. Hey JK, how are you? Good to see you. Live long and prosper to you and kiddo. I hope you have a wonderful day. We're talking Star Trek. I am a big fan of Star Trek. I really am. And then I grew up. There were so many comic book iterations of Star Trek. There really were. I looked up the wiki because it's really, just chock full of info. And wikis on face value are pretty. You can take them at face value if they don't really set off your bullshit meter. Star Trek, we had Gold Key comics, and there was a newspaper strip that in 1979 Marvel got the Star Trek comic book license rights, and they can only set it with the aesthetic of the motion picture, and it only went 18 issues and ended in 1981, which is interesting. There was a Sunday newspaper Star Trek. I remember that too, which had, and I don't think that they were reprinted from the comic book. Kind of like Star Wars, they were you had parallel stories. That is the train going by. And in 1984, DC Comics has their go with the Star Trek franchise, and they also get Star Trek Star Trek the Next Generation in 1987, 1988. I remember that too. This is the only issue I own of Star Trek as a comic book. I had this as a kid. This was issue 50 of the 56 issues and 3 annuals that ended in 1988. This is as Kirk says in Star Trek 2, putting on his glasses. Damn. This is from May 19, the cover date of 1988. Look, we've got a lunar pool. We've got, video game ads. I don't know what to advertise this comic book to, this funny book. Video game ad. No, that's actually it's. This is Top Secret. This is from TSR. That's and so this is an annual. You have a Reliant class vessel there taking out a Klingon D7 cruiser. Is that a D7? And this was written by Peter David, who just passed away. Oh, so this is like one of my only conscious Peter David books I have. He did write a bunch of DC of the pocket paperbacks like Q Squared and Captain's Daughter with it was a Captain Sulu adventure and talking about his daughter, who was the pilot of the Enterprise B. Tom Sutton did the pencils. Ricardo Villagrán is the inker. Helen Visick was the letterer. Michelle Wolfman was the colorist. And Robert Greenberger is the Klingon Emperor, aka probably the editor of this book. But this is a Peter David book, and it's an annual, so it stands alone, and it probably has to mention some kind of tangent to the DC universe as it's ongoing. I know because this has Lieutenant Bearclaw, who was the head of security, and he's Native American, and he was like he kind of had a character in the Next Generation movies. It wasn't the same character, of course. Maybe they were in continuity. That was his grandson. Wouldn't that be cool? I have to look that up. He got assimilated by the Borg. He did. Remember that? Elia and Decker were set to be characters in Star Trek Phase 2 and were continued in Star Trek The Motion Picture. A new Vulcan character was set to take Spock's place, and that was the Vulcan character who got trapped up in the transporter accident in Act 1 that just that left, they had, he didn't make it, and thank God wow, it was like this horrific transporter accident. And the other person, the second person, I guess that was an admiral who had a love affair with Jim Kirk. I recently read Star Trek The Motion Picture, the novelization, which was written, the screenplay was not written by Gene Roddenberry. The novelization of the screenplay was written by Gene Roddenberry. And I had such a really interesting kind of, love affair with this, because it was like, and like love affair, they were talking about like your intimacy coordinator. It's like, it's like this, this kind of like role of like, how are we going to teach people how to be appropriately intimate in their intimate relations when they grow up in a free society, a post-scarcity, the Star Trek world. Remember, the Star Trek world is like post-scarcity. And I made a joke today too, because there was some part of what we're going to talk about is the San Diego Comic-Con announcements of the two show. Well, one show, it's called Starfleet Academy, and that's set in the Star Trek Discovery universe. It is 1,000 years past Starfleet, so it's in this 32nd century. So, honestly, congratulations. That's a really good place for you people, you new Trekkers, to have some purchase. You keep the trappings, but it's so far, and there was some kind of like almost nigh apocalyptic stuff and a cataclysm. So this is the first Starfleet Academy in a generation or two. And so Starfleet is back. Yule Carter, what up, brother? Dodgers up 2-1. My Red Sox are playing his Dodgers. We are hosting his LA Dodgers. And we're doing great, Yule. How are you, buddy? Good to see you. We're talking some Star Trek. Drop your Trek talk in the chat if you feel so kind. Eat plebnista. It matters. We the people. It matters for the Khans and the Yangs, or it doesn't matter at all. It's one of my all-time. That is my all-time favorite Star Trek thing. I said that to William Shatner. The photographer said cheese, and I said eat plebnista, and Bill laughed, and Bill said, "You remembered the words." I'm like, "Yes, I did, Bill. Thank you so much." You only get like 10 seconds when you're at the convention and you get a picture. So, Whoa, here we go. Captain should get off the bridge and on the yeoman. Waka waka. So yeah, so this is an issue of a random issue I got in a $10 Bronze Age grab bag. This is actually a Copper Age book. So I'm not splitting hairs. The Copper Age runs from 1984 until 1993. The Bronze Age from 1970 until 1983-84. The Silver Age from 1954 to 1970. Before that, the Golden Age of comics was between 1938 and 1955. And this is interesting too because More Fun Comics by DC was released in 1935. And so the Golden Age begins at Action Comics #1 in 1938. Comic Book Shop-Style Conversations. This is great though. Yeah, I mean, so this is a Peter David story, and you get some melodrama with some romance. You get some Vulcan stuff. Spock ain't dead yet, so it's not set until Star Trek II, but they're fighting another Reliant-style ship. So, wow, this came out in 1980. This is after Star Trek 3. So Spock is back. So this is after Star Trek 4 because they have the Enterprise A. Oh, okay. Now it all makes sense. See, that's continuity, and that's keeping track of the stories, and that's the chapter versing of the details that drives our fandoms and this comic book shop style conversation and this ongoing Star Trek conversation. Now, I do not watch Paramount Plus shows, the Star Trek, the new stuff. I have absolutely negative reasons to. See, I was watching the Red Letter Media Picard Season 1 review, and they showed Icheb and getting his eye torn out. They showed the Romulan women all smashing their heads and self-deleting, smashing their faces off of stones. And I'm like, I called it torture porn, and that Red Letter Media was right. And I got blocked by Star Trek on CBS All Access in Season 1, the Season 1 days of Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard Season 1. Yeah. And then they got bought, or they rebranded, rather, CBS All Access to Paramount Plus. So I was grandfathered into that. So nobody actively at Paramount Plus blocked me. That was somebody at CBS All Access a few years ago. But the block stands. So I would literally have to be fucking out of my goddamn mind to want to watch anything. Paramount Plus. I mean, that's dissent. That was criticism and dissent. Yeah, and I got blocked for it by a corporation that's trying to get me to buy this stuff. I'm a lifelong fan. Or is it about ostracizing the lifelong fans? Making us, and just to question, I said it earlier, our antediluvian expectations and our refusal to evolve and elevate the iconic brand. It fuels the gatekeeping argument. But we are not gatekeepers, we are torch passers. But are you going to pass the torch to the wrong person? I don't think that Secret Hideout and Bad Robot were good shepherds. We're good people. We're good to pass the torch. We've passed the torch. The fire burns. The spark is easy to reignite and to hold. And you need to pass this love, this spark, this fire. And you need to pass it. Keep passing it. And they got to pass it too. But it's never about gatekeeping. It's about torch passing, keeping that fire going. So how am I supposed to want to be part of this? How am I supposed to literally engage with this, to spend money as a subscriber to CBS All Access or subsequently Paramount Plus while you have blocked me on social media? I would be an idiot to spend my money with you. And also made me a little grateful for it too, because as a Star Trek fan, everything that I've seen capsule reviews, which are always chock full of context, timeline, spoilers, and images. So these capsule programs are sometimes, and it's interesting too. You can watch 3 different shows, they're on 3 different channels about the same episode. So you've already have extended the running time of the original source material by probably 3-fold, when you could have just watched the fucking thing in the first place. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? So yeah, this is an old issue of Star Trek. I remember having this my freshman year in high school. One of the few comic books I was buying. And I wasn't buying lots of comic books in high school. That would be my last year at summer camp. Would be 1988, would be this year. So, and I just, and I bonded with 2 other campers. I was 15. Was it 14? 14. I was 14. And how old was I in 88? I was 15. Yeah. The summer of 88. I was 15 years old. And there was Muggs and Donnie. And we were in the Little John was our name of our hut, of our that dwelling. What do you call it? At summer camp. Our house, there was Apache, there was Chippewa. Maybe I'm bashing a few other camps, but this was a place called Chop Point in Bath, Maine, near Bath, Maine, and it was right on the river. It was a beautiful place. I spent a month there, and I made some really good friends that year, and we bonded over comic books and Star Trek. And that was the year I got turned on to Kyle Baker and Andy Heffler's DC The Shadow. That was current. 7 Deadly Fins. I just found that as the Dynamite Volume Number 2 trade paperback, and I have 7 Deadly Fins in floppy, but I almost bought The Shadow Volume 2 reprints of the DC stuff on Dynamite Press. It was in a trade paperback. Just to have a copy to lend or to give as a gift, and be like, listen, this is Kyle Baker. This is madcap stuff. This was fun. It was over the top. It was the 80s. Dude, it was, yeah. But on the obverse side, it's just a random issue of Conan the Barbarian that came in the same Bronze Age grab bag. They're $10 for 4 issues. I'm a sucker for those things, man. They're usually at the sidewalk. You know what I mean? I'm walking by. I'm like, oh shit. Okay. I don't think that I think my current local comic book shop we're in such a bad neighborhood in a way that they just can't do sidewalk stuff. They never did. It's just, yeah. Aw. But yeah, Star Trek. So let's talk about Trek, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the bad things and the good things that may be. Let's talk about Trek, little baby, little baby. Let's talk about Trek. Let's talk about Trek. You see, what the heck, Captain Janeway or Captain Kirk, you see. Comanche. Yeah, something like that. And yeah, we read. It was just Star Trek novels, Star Trek comic books, comic books. It was the Death in the Family was going on, but right before that, to be honest, we had I literally got this comic then. This comic book came out that year, October 88. So this came out in August of 88. And that was me in summer camp. We got this one of our trips to the mall. It's not the same copy. It's a replacement copy, but this is one of my all-time favorite single Batman issues. A result of that famous year, my last year at summer camp. My final year at summer camp. I've had every year's been summer camp ever since. Cheers. Good to see you. Have a great one. Hello, Dwayne Muth. Wrath of Khan was the only Trek movie not to have a comic book adaptation until, I believe, 2009. Do you know that IDW has had the Star Trek license since 2006? And I think that's pretty impressive. They're coming up on their 20 years of stewardship. Now we can say anything we want about their it's group editor. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to see her next week, in 2 weeks, rather, at Boston Fan Expo. I'm always nice to her. I would love to talk to her about Trek. I would love to talk to Heather Antos. I would love to talk to her about Star Wars. She was assistant editor under Jordan White during the first volume of Disney Star Wars at Marvel. You know, that was the Jason Aaron, John Cassaday, volume 2. I believe that is. That's yeah, I believe so. And so the newest one should be volume 4. Good thing for Overstreet price guides. They delineate that kind of stuff with the volumes. In 2009, IDW published Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, written by Andy Schmidt and based on the second Star Trek movie, and the only movie in the original with the original crew that had never previously been in comic form, as the film's release came during the gap between Marvel's and DC's licenses. Yeah, so I'm impressed with that. You know, that's impressive. That's been 20 years of stewardship, you know, and I don't give Star Trek comic books a fair shake. I know that. And I could be getting Star Trek comic books. I hear the Tipton brothers write for Trek. I mean, I was looking at the Trek at my LCS, my local comic book shop, New England Comics, Quincy, Massachusetts, Hancock Street, right near Quincy Center. They have a Star Wars shelf of recent floppies and a Star Trek shelf, because there are several Star Trek comics in one time. Yeah, I mean, it's this because you do have like several shows in several eras that you could always be telling stories from. And now you have like more classic kind of looking universe stuff, but they also have the full menu of, you know, Prodigy, Lower Decks, and people like that Lower Decks, you know, that Rick and Morty look and sense of humor. I've never watched an episode of Rick and Morty. I'm guilty of that. I'm like, am I guilty of that or just oblivious or ignorant? They're time travel-y. They're like a grandfather, grandson, or they could be the same person. Huh? I'd see that. That's a Rick and Morty joke, I guess. Now you can go back and get it in floppy format to cover up that bald spot on your collection. Yeah. But yeah, so some shows were announced at San Diego Comic-Con. The Hall H kind of stuff. I've never been to San Diego Comic-Con. I might go next year. I was thinking about it. Why not? I went to Dallas this year, and I know that Aaron Sparrow is going to be there, and I could probably, you know, hey, months and months in advance, like, Aaron, let's talk about San Diego Comic-Con. I'm thinking about going. You know, like maybe we can get a mini meetup going. You know, whoever's interested. You know, Max Von Priestley lives in Southern California too. You know, Jesse Blaze Snyder. You know, get the whole gang together. Be madcap. Go to a steakhouse. And yeah, now that we've all met, now it's like, oh wow, when's the next meetup? That's always a good question, especially when you meet up with the people out here. I'm wearing my Drive Shaft shirt. It's a tour shirt. The 2002 World Tour. You all, everybody, driving in your fancy cars, wearing expensive clothes. They were kind of that Britpop Oasis kind of rip-off thing. It was Charlie from Lost. That was his band, him and his brother. That was their one-hit wonder. Was You All Everybody. Drive Shaft. It was Charlie's Ring. And I love Lost, but what does that have to do with Star Trek? Well, The Lost actor is Naveen Andrews, and he played Saeed in all 6 seasons of Lost. Saeed is a wonderful character, and I love Naveen Andrews' voice and his delivery. Well, he's going to be playing Khan Noonien Singh in an audio book, an audio series. Let's share. Hey, Lane Kramer, what up, brother? Good to see you, bud. Whoop, 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 whoop. Here we go. Dun, 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 dun. Pikachu is supposed to be able to do this. Star Trek. This is published yesterday, and this news came hot off the presses. But this is all part of the Alex Kurtzman-led Secret Hideout continuity. So as of right now in Star Trek, there are 3 separate continuities. There is the original series, 1966 through 2005. The J.J. Abrams Bad Robot 3 movies are in their own their own universe. They really are. Which is an alternate timeline to the original universe. Spock comes back in time. The same Spock from Next Generation, being elderly Spock, comes back from time, unable to help the Romulans, of whom he dedicated the rest of his life to helping. That was the plot point from Spock's appearance in Star Trek Next Generation. It was about reunification and calamity ensues and time travel. Therefore, going back in time and changing an inciting incident where there's a now, and that's a different Jim Kirk. So we have our real Jim Kirk, and then you have this thing we call the Kelvin universe. The Kelvin was the USS Kelvin, where it involves the birth of Jim Kirk. And then, it was a movie. It was a movie, and it was an adaptation, and everything was shiny and new, and there was innuendo in the age you could have innuendo. Scotty, played by Simon Pegg. I really liked it when it came out. I really tried to like it. Michael Ciccone did the music. He did the music for Lost. He's the Next Generation after Hans Zimmer and John Williams. Oh wow. No, I haven't talked about anything. I've just been meandering. We've been talking about I'm talking about Star Trek right now. I'm having a Star Trek conversation. That's going to be fine for now. We'll get into some comic books after that. But now I'm going to just Star Trek Con audio series release, official trailer, poster, premiere date, and additional voice casting. All new scripted podcast is set to premiere on Star Trek Day, September 8th, 2025. This is written by the StarTrek.com staff. This is from StarTrek.com itself /news. And its URL, it's Universal Resource Locator in the HTTP, the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Do you know any of your HTML? Do you know how to pull up the source code for any web screen? You can. It's all there, man. And those are the numbers of the matrix. The anxiously awaited scripted podcast series Star Trek Con is set to release its first episode September 8th, 2025 in celebration of Star Trek Day. The premiere announcements were made yesterday at Star Trek Universe presentation at Hall H at Comic-Con International in San Diego, California. There's an official trailer. And no, we are not going to tempt copyright. And I don't want to give, and that's part of my whole thing of being blocked by Paramount Plus. Star Trek, not by Paramount Plus, that account, but by Star Trek and Paramount Plus. And I'm still blocked by them. That's just outrageous. So I'm not going to spend my money with you. And I'm not going to give you what you want most. clicks, view times, metrics. That's what matters most, especially to their advertisements and stuff. Khan explores untold events on Ceti Alpha 5, chronicling Khan's descent from a superhuman visionary into a vengeful villain, seen in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. New episodes will be available on Mondays through November 3rd, wherever you get your podcasts. Naveen Andrews, Lost, voices the iconic role of Khan Noonien Singh and is joined by a stellar cast, as including Ren Schmidt as Lieutenant Marla McGivers, the historian who was stationed aboard the Enterprise, who fell in love with Khan on the original series on Space Seed, and she went with him to settle Ceti Alpha 5. Tim Russ is reprising his role as Ensign Tuvok, and the legendary George Takei is Captain Sulu, which is interesting because if it's about, Captain Sulu, he wasn't Captain Sulu until Star Trek 5. No, he wasn't Captain Sulu until Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. He was captain of the Excelsior, the NCC 2000, not even the NX 2000. And Tuvok was bridge crew under Sulu. So, wonder how they're gonna weave in that era. See, that's it. That's being a fan. That's knowing your Star Trek. That's knowing your continuity. How is this fitting? So you're telling a story that takes place between the original series and Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, where we pick up with them when, where this is Ceti Alpha 5! Ceti Alpha 6 was laid waste. Exploded. I wish I remembered the whole thing. Was it Ceti Alpha 4? Am I getting this totally wrong? What's up, AL? How are ya? Welcome. We're just talking Star Trek. Hanging out. Sunday. It's the Super Sully Sunday stream. And if you're joining us on the replay, please, now's a great time to hit that smash button, smash that like button, and hit that subscribe. We're a small but growing channel. We just reached 1621. I gotta be honest with you. I own Voyager, and I think I've watched about 4 seasons out of the 7. To be honest with you, I mean, there's a lot I've missed. I thought the premiere, the pilot, was amazing. Caretaker. That was the blah blah blah. Have some water, Sully. Good idea, Pikachu. And I thought that the finale of Voyager was wonderful. Admiral Janeway violating the Temporal Prime Directive, and interesting. Yeah, talk about changing. Talk about time travel. Talk about making in Star Trek. I mean, I wonder how much damage Janeway did in space-time continuum. Have we been in a different timeline since the end of Voyager? Maybe. Really? I really liked it. I love the ending of Enterprise too. Of dovetailing into an episode of Next Generation, and being Will Riker, being on the holodeck, seeing I like that a lot. Dwayne agrees. Snorty did not like Voyager. I own it. I have to do the 735. I have to just sit down and do it. What is the 735? Well, the 735 Club is there are 735 hours worth of Star Trek between 1966 and 2005. All the real live action and the animated show Star Trek. That's 3 seasons of the original series. There was 1 season of the animated series. All 6 movies. Is it, or do we include? I think we include the. No, we got to include the Next Generation movies. Yeah, they have to be included. Yeah. Enterprise gets an A for effort. Yeah, it was. I didn't like the opening theme song. I mean, like, what is it? In season 3, they figured out, no, we really have to put Star Trek on the trade dress. Oh, you're killing me. You're killing me here. I really wanted to make it so like independent, and it's interesting, because it's like, and modern Star. Okay, like in a new episode, and this coming into this season of Star Trek, Brave New Worlds, which is set on the Enterprise, 1701, before Jim Kirk. So, and this is talking about a descendant of Khan, who's a bridge crew on the Enterprise in New Trek, on Strange New Worlds, on Christopher Pike, Anson Mount, wonderful actor. And number 1 is being played by Rebecca Romanen. Wow, wow, wow. The Spock that they got, he's just some kind of this weird. He's Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory. Right? He's full of anxiety and autism and emotional. He needs like an emotional support bear or something. Snorty, maybe they need you in a Starfleet uniform. Report to duty immediately, Ensign. Or should I say, Sergeant at Arms. Oh, bear. Deep Space Nine was great. And I didn't like how it ended. Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, the whole thing, Cisco's like, oh, I have to go and save everyone in the wormhole now. And that's my best Avery Brooks voice, okay? Do it for the team, Snorty. Did you see that episode of Mad Men with the Ferrari account? Come on. But Star Trek Khan, okay, so it's only being set in a certain part of Khan's story, so it's not like it's going back. Or maybe this could be the opportunity to have flashbacks as well, but to talk about the eugenics war and to talk about what led to, the Khan, his people, his very few. I mean, it seems like probably they were the result, exactly. Is this where we flesh out Khan's past as a story? What led to him? We offered them order! We. I love that. Did he use the royal we? Did Khan, I mean, that was from Space Seed in the original series. I love that. And Scott Bakula is a great actor and a dumbass Paramount channel. I mean, yeah, it's like, I won't watch Kurtzman Trek either because of the block. I mean, that's the first stumbling point. I mean, I got Picard season 3 on Blu-ray. I got it used, so Paramount won't get any of my money. I got it used for that very purpose, and I got it based on Robert Meyer Burnett's sterling, resounding clarion call of a recommendation, and I trusted him, and I enjoyed the hell out of Star Trek Picard. I really do. I really liked the first Abrams movie. I mean, I saw Into Darkness 3 times when it came out. I saw it in 3D. My best friend Peter just had, like, his eye, was fixed. So he had stereoscopic vision for the first time in his life. So I took him to a 3D movie. There wasn't a lot of 3D stuff in Star Trek Into Darkness. And I was like, always like, eternally put off with Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan. I mean, what? Where did you get that? That's like, that's a race swap. That really is. Now, you had Ricardo Montalban play Khan. You know what I mean? But like, just dark hair, dark eyes. Swarthy. He's just, And if you had to, like, if you could, I would have hired John Leguizamo to have played Khan. The only person, like, another Latino actor, I mean, that could pull off the spirit of Ricardo Montalban. I mean, and then Star Trek Beyond, I saw that in the movie theater and wanted to cry. It was so bad. They used the same Beastie Boys song as the first one, and it's like you could have used a different one. And that the Beastie Boys and the music was like Mars Attacks, and that was the Mars Attacks ending. And the scavenger girl that they meet on that planet, and that's Ray Skywalker, Ray Palpatine. That was the Star Trek version of Ray. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. It was not exactly. I mean, like, give me some zeros in the chat if you think John Leguizamo should have been Khan. I'll start. Yeah, here's my old face. But let's finish up this article. It's based on a story by writer and director of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, Nicholas Meyer, Kristen Bayer, and David Mack serve as writers on the podcast. Star Trek Khan is produced by CBS Podcast Productions. Interesting, because it's going to be like an old style radio show. It's going to have music, it's going to have sound effects, and it's going to have, you know, a full voice cast. And that's kind of like entertainment was before television. You would have radio shows, and they would have to fill, you know, you would have your serialized programs from westerns to romances to Superman and different shows and sci-fi shows, you know, and different things. Yeah, old time radio is a really fun thing, and it looks like we're going back to that in a way because of podcasts and about, you know, and that kind of content, the podcast kind of culture. And what else is going on too is something called Starfleet Academy. Now, this is set 1,000 years into the future of Star Trek. Where did my thingy go? Oh shit! I was supposed to. Oh no! Oh shit! I just shot Marvin in the face. That's from Pulp Fiction. Starfleet Academy, like a mother. Hello. There we go. Yo, Adam Frey, how you feeling today? Good to see you. Star Trek, Starfleet. This was published yesterday. This is again from StarTrek.com itself. Published yesterday, July 26th, 2025. There are a lot of twos there stumbling me up. Why was 7 afraid of 8? Why was 6 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9. Oh, 7, 8, what? 7 on 9. Whoa, hello. Waka waka. Star Trek Starfleet Academy drops official first look teaser trailer. The original series will premiere in early 2026. Step into your future. And we have, you know, there's 6, you know, men and women, boys and girls, in one hologram. Why does she have? Shouldn't the hologram one not have a shadow? And Paramount Plus released an electrifying first look teaser trailer for its new original series, Starfleet Academy. The series set to premiere on the service in early 2026 as a kickoff to the year's Star Trek 60th anniversary celebrations. It's keeping the Star Trek font that was introduced to us with the motion picture. Before that wasn't a font. This font is so associated with science fiction because of that. I love fonts. I do. The highly anticipated first look trailer features the main campus in San Francisco, plus the main starship, an integral part of the Starfleet Academy campus, the USS Athena, named after a stunning and brave woman of Greek. And everything's in English, which is great because, you know, regardless of how much you think the commies are in charge, I mean, this English is still the Western civilization is still the hegemony 1,000 years in the future. He's a human. It's Caleb Muir. His focus is undeclared. And at least we have, okay, so now this is the same universe that gave us new Klingons in Star Trek Discovery. And they've gone back, and now this is derivative of Discovery, of Disco. This is set in 1,000 years in the future of Star Trek Discovery. There's even a crossover character played by Tig Notaro, who plays an engineer, one of the engineers of the Disco, who's gonna, be quirky and do some doop-a-doo and derp, something like that. I shouldn't punch down on Ms. or them or they. I don't even know if that's their their pronoun. See, it's overthinking shit. Took some Advil. A long soak and take some Advil. Oh, that's for you, Adam Frey. Yes. Hot shower. Maybe some yoga. Maybe some hot yoga. You know what I mean? Why would you want to suggest that, Sully? Well, yoga's okay, man. And this is a Kaskian. And this is Sam. And I think she is the hologram. And she's a series acclamation mill, aka Sam, the first of her kind to ever attend Starfleet Academy. And yeah, so she's a hologram who's going to be like Star Trek Voyager, like the Doctor, Robert Picardo's Doctor, and he's got a role in this too, because it's the same emergency hologram Doctor. It's the same character, and who's been active for over 1,000 years. For about 1,000 years. It's interesting too, because that kind of dovetails a bit closer to Star Trek Voyager, therefore making that closer Star Trek. And making Disco a bit more kind of closer to its version of the original series. Because remember, Brand New Worlds, Strange New Worlds is of that universe. That's the secret outhouse universe. And that precedes Kirk's captaincy on the 5-year voyage of the USS Enterprise. Are you paying attention? As a student, though, yeah. So it's like kind of like the next generation for it has to be an AI, and it has to be some kind of electronic soul, and maybe a continuation of the Doctor. Maybe they're going to show that maybe the Doctor's own programming. Let's see, what's a Keonian? We'll find out, and that's Daram Rami, and he focuses on command. And see, we have red in the piping and on the undershirt and on the piping of the and so operations we have cold, sciences we have blue. So it's keeping the undeclared. He doesn't have a color. Command, and she's in red. It was a Darsha. We'll find out. But she's strong, stunning, and brave. An admiral's daughter, determined to make her own name in Starfleet. Isn't that the whole thing on Lower Decks? I don't watch any of that, but I'm like, I kind of like, I keep my thumb. I kind of keep. I'm a Star Trek fan. I got to know what's going on, I guess. And I don't watch Lower Decks, And yeah, Robert Picardo reprising his iconic role as the Doctor. Tig Notaro reprising her role. So there you go, because they wouldn't, as Jet Reno and recurring guests. Now, this is what got a lot of. I was getting into some Star Trek conversations because one of my favorites, Anna, that Star Wars girl, who was also Anna, that Star Trek girl too. Recurring guest star Gina Yasher as Commander Laura Thok, a Klingon Jem'Hadar hybrid who is the Chancellor's first officer and cadet master. So the whole thing was like, where did this female Jem'Hadar come from? It's non-canonical. It's what they're at it again. Like, you see did you see what Strange New Worlds did to the Orions? Oh my gosh. It's like these cultural locusts. They don't know their trek, and they go and write new stories, and it's meant to alienate the old fan, and they don't have a respect for the pre-established community in our history and our lore that was here before them. They're like, no, it's a complete blank slate because HR told us to. We can do anything we want as long as HR, the Ivy League grad school grads of HR and marketing, approve of it. And we were hired by them. We all went to Columbia, Yale, all these Ivy League schools. We all have the same ideology. We're going to put Stacey Abrams as the president of the Federation of Planets in the 32nd century. That reference is already old, and that reference is completely specious and dubious at this point. If we really want, wow. It was. AL says, I didn't watch Lower Decks either, but I watched a channel called Crimson Sin review all the episodes. It sounded kind of bad. It was more man bashing. Yeah, the hapless, sidekick, that too. But let's see. But we were saying so Jem'Hadar were only males because what is a Jem'Hadar? The Jem'Hadar is the genetically modified clones of the Dominion, of the founders over on the other side of the wormhole in Deep Space Nine in the Delta Quadrant. They're Odo's people, the liquid people, the changelings. And there were only males. There were no female Jem'Hadar. But then you have to give yourself room to grow and evolve and and extend the iconic branding. But it's 1,000 years in the future. It's now the 32nd century, and there is what seems to be a female Jem'Hadar. But here, it kind of a storyline clears that up a little bit. A Klingon Jem'Hadar hybrid. So the daddy could have been a Jem'Hadar, and the baby mama could have been the Klingon. And they made sweet, sweet love one night and made Laura Thok. And 3 was a magic number. A man and a woman had a little baby. There were 3 and they were never. This was Schoolhouse Rock, anyone? And wow, all this wow, and this all of these hybrid kind of people Holly Hunter plays the admiral and who's in command of the USS Athena, the training vessel, and she is the commandant. It's Holly Hunter, yeah, and she's half human, half something else that has a long lifespan. So but recurring guest star and Academy Award nominee Paul Giamatti as a part Klingon, part Tellarite, Noose Bracca, the season's villain with an ominous past connected to one of our cadets. Dun dun dun! And Alex Kurtzman and Noga Landau serve as co-showrunners and executive produce the series alongside of hundreds of people that you will see in the opening credits. Oh boy. And let's look at some of the Star Trek franchise in Paramount Plus. Also include the made-for-TV movie Star Trek Section 31 with Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh, and also the acclaimed original series Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which recently premiered its 3rd season. All the seasons of the animated Star Trek series, The Lower Decks, and also Star Trek Prodigy as well. The award-winning series Star Trek Discovery, starring Sinequa Martin Green, and the critically acclaimed original series Star Trek Picard. Yes. Wow. And I won't watch any of them. What is up, Captain? Good to see ya. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. They have plenty of it. Like in Star Trek Discovery, I think, or is it Brave New Worlds? They went back to the Guardian of Forever, and instead of being a portal with a voice, it was a Doctor Who pastiche. I'm saving the last couple of episodes for a rainy day. I don't know if anyone watches a fan series called Star Trek Continues, free on YouTube. It finishes the original series and it's pretty faithful to the original. Yes, it had like one of the Who Mourns for Adonis. They had the actor who played Apollo. He came back and reprised his role in a sequel to that episode. That's got Vic Mignogna as Captain Kirk, and it's got a Grant Ibishima, that was his name, and he passed away a couple of years ago. He was Sulu, and it's got the sound effects. It's got the softness of the camera lens. It's got the fabric of the tunics, and it's got everything just right. It's an amazingly great, accurate show. Star Trek Continues. It's really, really good. Yeah. So Star Trek. Khan. Star Trek. Starfleet Academy. Yeah, and it's going to be set so far in the future that at least, that's get back there. Grant Imahara, thank you. And he's passed away, so rest in peace, Grant. All right. Those are the Star Trek announcements. I'm not going to watch any of them, but I'm sure as shit that I'll be like regaled with, capsule shows. It's like I didn't watch any of the Star Wars The Acolyte, but I saw so many of the capsule shows on so many different channels that maybe I should have just watched the show and I would have saved a lot more time and I could have made my mind up for myself, And Dwayne Booths, I've been watching Trek since 1970. Exactly. I've been watching Trek since probably 1974. I was born in 72, but I was immediately put in front of a television as soon as I was old enough to be a rugrat and crawl around. And Star Trek was in constant reruns. And we had Mego dolls too. I remember just like there was toys. And there was Star Trek was my first science fiction. It had to have been. Seriously. And then came Space 1999 in 1975 and 76. And that came out. I knew that. I knew Star Trek and I knew Space 1999 before I knew Star Wars, which released May 25th, 1977. Not A Bloody New Hope. No. That's a retcon that comes later. Yes, I said that just for you, Captain. Don't get him started, man. Seriously. Or start him up. It's like an interesting conversation. Trust me. Been a part of a few. And they make sense, too. I mean, seriously. And that's why I have like a different kind of canon. I enjoy 2, maybe 3 separate canons of original Star Wars from 1977 to 1980, and it was the movie Star Wars, and then it was the daily newspaper strip and the Sunday newspaper strip and the funny pages, and then there was also the Marvel comics. None of them, yeah. It was great. And then there was Splinter the Mind's Eye, the Alan Dean Foster book. That came out like, 79. Salamo, good to see ya. How are ya? Welcome. I guess I should review some comic books, huh? What did I read this week? Wow, 7 notifications. I had a tweet that blew up. And let's see. Oh, Star Trek with whoa. I watched it in the 70s. Yeah, cool. No, it wasn't always woke because that woke didn't exist until recently. It was something else. Mm-hmm. And what am I looking for? Oh yeah, messages. Reviews. I read 17 Marvel books this week. I've read 4 DC books and 1 Dark Horse book. I bought 3 of these, and that's for a grand total of 22 different floppies this week. And the running total, which will end the month of July, I read 87 different books this month. It's true. I probably bought 14 or 15. But in my review copies, the Abomination one-shot wasn't that bad at all. The backup was fine. The art in both were pretty good, and I'll give it a 7.5. It's pretty solid, and I was entertained. Sometimes that's all you can ask for. This is the One World Under Doom. Bring on the bad guy. Bring on the bad guys, the Abomination, issue number 3. And Death of the Silver Surfer number 2 by Greg Bupak, and really good art. And the art seems to, but it seems to be a really on the nose illegal immigrant ICE allegory going on. So it's Greg Bupak. Yeah, whatever. It's mildly entertaining because the art elevates the mess stories. And Greg Pak can still go himself. Deadpool Wolverine number. Oh, these are. Oh my gosh! No wonder. No, those are the following weeks. No, I was repeating myself. Okay, this week's Marvel reviews. Let's get to it. I want to stop what I'm doing and fucking answer this guy's tweet. Star Trek was always woke. No, it wasn't. Woke is clearly a 21st century phenomenon. I think it needs to have a different context, and I think that's just weak sauce arguments from wokies. You're trying to appropriate something. Seriously, I don't believe you. You're not gonna. You can't sell me on that. Where am I? What am I doing? Oh yeah, Amazing Spider-Man number 8 let off this week. I liked it a lot. I gave it an 8.5. This is some great John Romita Jr. art. Scott Hanna inks. Great pacing, great camera work. He's putting on a display. I mean, this is how you tell a story, a comic book story. I love it. The Todd Knock had a couple pages in there too. I really liked it. Doom Division number 5 out of 5. It was the strongest issue of the miniseries, yet it was still god awful as well. It just lands. It is it's the superhero team of a Pan-Asian coalition, finding out, that they have to work for Doom, and now they've breaking from that, and they're gonna stand on their own. Yay, hooray for them. Emma Frost 2, yikes! It's not just bad; it was boring. I'm trying to remember if there was any other Amy Chu books that I've ever read, and I came up with a big blank. I don't recall. Fantastic Four Fanfare number 3 was a stinker. Really, and I had hope in the Zdarsky All Reds chapter, and that hope was misspent. The Dan Slott one was about Ben Grimm's piloting. That was the best story of the bunch. Yet the second issue was written by Tom DeFalco, but he had really good art by Ron Frenz. And this is really, for me, this is Bronze Agey, man. And it was meant to be. So that had a lot of good camera work, a lot of good, just line art. They got digitaled up, yeah, but overall it was good to see Ron Frenz stuff. But the story was meh. Gwenpool number 3 was a steaming hot pile. It was a steaming pile of hot mess. Kevin Scott can do a decent job on the Star Wars stuff, but here it's an uphill climb to uselessness. It's about Gwenpool of Gwendolyn Pool's ghost haunting people because of her her narrative plotter powers, that she has, versus getting killed by Gwen Stacy, Gwenpool weapon, come back from the dead, whatever it is she is, whatever is going on. Iron Man 10 was bad. So that's a 5-issue arc. Those are 2 5-issue arcs written by Spencer Ackerman. This had One World Under Doom tie-in, all in the trade dress. The art dragged down a mess story. I didn't like the art one bit. The Ackerman days are over, and whatever new number 1 is probably right around the corner. Oh well. And the earth will keep spinning, the sun will keep rising, and there will be a new Iron Man number 1 one of these days. In a way, or does when they come back, that at the end of the episode, because it's like I feel like we have to use the premise of magical realism in a way. It's something that's not used too much in Star Trek, because that was a bit more harder sci-fi, but for its age, it's about it is about the whimsy of storytelling coming from these writers like the DC Fontana, of Ray Bradbury, of Kurt Vonnegut, of Isaac Asimov. There's a certain whimsy to it. So when McCoy, Spock, and Kirk step from the Guardian, and there's Scotty, and he's like, "What? You're only gone a minute," that they just came back to the Prime universe without any of the gobbledygook, involved, with paradox and divergent timelines for every time you mess with the timeline. I mean, I see it a little bit more tighter. It is story-wise, in fiction, fantasy, story-wise reasons, not the logics and the logics of time travel, but more of the elegance of storytelling. And that just, I think it's easier and more elegant and just safer. No, they just popped. The Guardian knew better, and the Guardian just restored. That was it. It was just it was more. It wasn't a divergent timeline. It was more of a pimple or a loop. And they're just. That's just my. I think but that's a great conversation. I love it, because that is a comic book shop style conversation, and that's all we're here for. Yeah, exactly. Warp cores, faster than light traveling, phasers. What is a phaser? What is one? Not a laser. Well, because once ships could achieve warp status, they could outrun the speed of light, therefore making lasers useless. A phaser is a different application of an energy projectile thing, and made up stuff. And what they would coin later on in 1987, the crew, the cast, they made up the name. They called it technobabble, and they said that the script was always, and we made up a word for it. The script was full of technobabble, and tachyon fields, and dilithium crystals, and all this stuff. Awesome. I'm having a blast. How about you? Happy Sunday. It's time for the Super Sully Sunday stream here at Reverend Sully's channel. If you're just tuning in for the first time, smash that like button, leave a comment, and please subscribe. We are a small but growing channel. We really are, and we mean very well. We're very well intended. Coming this week, we have an episode of The Smoking Puck. We will also have Street Smarts for the Single Soul. I got ghosted. I was supposed to have a date, and I got ghosted. And I made a video, and we'll see that thing Tuesday. Mondays will be Smoking Puck days when I do release Mondays. When I get into a regular schedule about the Smoking Puck, because it's my whole episode is about, it's July. There's nothing hockey to talk about. I'm sorry, there just isn't. But comic books, it's Jeff number 2 made me sad. Maybe it's because I got ghosted on a Match.com date when I thought we had a date planned. No, it's because this book was really annoying and bad. I'm not a Guardians of the Galaxy fan, and that would have helped, because I think it was dumb all over, and I like dumb, and I like dumb fun, but it was no fun. It was cute, but it couldn't win me over. It really it's not good. It's not good. It was a lot of talking, and I think it's Jeff works better when it's more of a funny page, more show don't tell, when it's whimsical, when it's light, and it's not dialogue driven, or Yeah, I just yeah. But maybe it's just capitalizing on Marvel Rivals and about being an active fighter and having But Moon Knight, Vista Conchu number 10, Legacy number 250 was great. I almost bought it. I put it down. I was like, I want to buy comics, and it had a really nice variant cover that was a throwback to a Bronze Age kind of look and feel to it. And I came very close to buying it. I did. I just, I kind of wussied out. It was only $4.99, and I should have, because Jed McKay's strong here. He's doing a good job, and I love Dev Pramalak's art. It's got some great panel progressions, great camera work, great line art. You know what I mean? Just like very inventive use of panel borders. Taking on parts of capes or chains or rope or just like it's really exhilarating as someone who really likes comic book art and dynamic superhero fights. Dev Pramalak, he's had my eye for a while. I first noticed him way back in Ram V's The Vigil number 5 and in a fight scene. And I was like, wow, this guy looks like a one-man Frank Miller, Klaus Janson. And he hasn't let me down since I started noticing him. Yeah, so I kind of follow him as an artist. And he's also doing something that's coming up after One World Under Doom. It's a free-for-all. Who's the next Sorcerer Supreme of the Marvel Universe? You know what I mean? Who's going to step up and grab it? It's not necessarily has to be Stephen Strange. It could be anyone. Let's see. Back to action. Yeah, Moon Knight, Vista Conchu was great. Great fight scenes, camera work, pacing, panel layout. McKay is in top form. Phoenix by Stephanie Phillips, number 13. Reads like stereo instructions. This book could have been 2 pages long if they weren't stretching out this useless story. It's not ending. It's number 13, so it's at least solicited up until issue 15. Because a lot of these Marvel from the Ashes books are getting slashed and cut, especially with the line-wide interruption of the Age of Revelation. The Age of Revelation is like the 30-year anniversary of the Age of Apocalypse, where it's an alternate timeline. So every title is going to have some kind of new issue number 1 to evoke the old Age of Apocalypse. When you had this inventive, it's like this reset universe. How did the teams come together and their powers and their uniforms and their team names? What's for supper? I don't know. I got pizza. I gotta eat. I'm sick of pizza. Oh, I should have took a steak out of the oven. I know that. But yeah, Phoenix 13, yeah. Psylocke number 9, I gotta admit the art is pretty good and the story doesn't totally suck because it's Alyssa Yu Wong, who blocked me on Twitter. And so you know how I feel about that. This one was way too talky. Not a lot happens except for setting up the end, and this is ending next issue. So going to say Psylocke, Phoenix, I think all of the X single character books are ending, except for Storm. It came out this week too. Storm number 10. It remains an interesting book. The art is pretty good. The story is uneven. I'm not a fan of it, yet it's got its strengths. It's just not my cuppa. So I got no reason to cut it down. It's not made for me. And it's not terrible. It doesn't grab me. Runaways 2 was more fun than number 1. I never read Runaways, so I'm a little bit lost. And this is written by Rainbow Rowell, and apparently she's written several volumes of the Runaways, not the Brian K. Vaughan stuff, which I hear is he wrote the first one. He invented the Runaways, and Brian K. Vaughan is like, why isn't he still writing comics? They probably just can't afford him because he's that good. What is Brian K. Vaughan doing now? I would love to know. I don't know, but you can tell that Rainbow Rowell really loves these characters. The team has a decent snark with each other, and it's pretty classic, like Avengers level banter that they got going on in dynamics. So it's like I don't feel this felt more like an Avengers book than Jed McKay's Avengers, like in its terms of the familiarity of the characters, their relationships with each other, and the way they speak to each other, and each one having like a very distinct voice as well. The fight with the Doombots and the powers are interesting. Runaways #2 is better than most Marvel comics this week. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying I do wish there was more expository dialogue to inform a new reader. Someone like me, I could use some info. Maybe that comes in issue 3. I don't know. Is that like how it's set up these days? Star Wars Dr. Aphra Chaos Agent #2 is very Star Warsy. It's quite typical, and that's welcome because decent new Star Wars is barely ever produced anymore. It's not great. It's mediocre, yet the art is good, and Luke sounds like Luke. But it all leads to the sequel trilogy, so it's worthless in a way. And they're really pushing this new look for Han Solo. This like post Return of the Jedi Disney Han Solo look. It's just his look inverted. He's got a black long sleeve shirt with a white vest over it. And, that's about it. And it's like, yeah, and doesn't work. Spider-Verse versus Venomverse #3 was fun. It's not great, but fun goes a long way with me sometimes. They have Japanese Spider-Man showed up. I don't know if you know this, but there was a Japanese Spider-Man show in the mid 1970s. And currently unreadable X-Men, yeah. And Dwayne, yeah, El Swen, yeah, John Burns, alternate, history of, it's issue 144B. That's yeah. I'll be in for that. That sounds great. But Spider-Verse was okay. The Japanese Spider-Man is great, and I like his alternate costume. It's very Kamen Rider or Go Nagai's 70s hero with the scarf. And I like Spider-Ham. And I like how his intent is just a little sus. And I used to read those Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham comics when I was a kid. Uncanny X-Men #18. The art is not great. The David Marquez cover is stupid. Wolverine getting motion sickness on a Ferris wheel? That's not fun. That's dumb. But at least there's some superheroics in this book that involved with a hospital rescue scene. So you have all the X-Men using their powers together as a team to, save these trapped patients in a burning hospital. Yet it's just another Gail Simone written story, and it's really starting to hurt to read her. How? I mean, there's been 18 issues of Uncanny X-Men written by Gail Simone, and they're not that good. No. West Coast Avengers wraps up next month. I don't like the art. I think it sucks here. I'm exhausted with this story. But Killer Watt really pulls together. He's the only standout. Killer Watt, maybe, Firestar. But everything else is just, geez. Disco Han Solo. Drum solo. Ah, boy. Where'd it go? Okay. West Coast Avengers. It's only got one more issue. And that's that. Yeah. But yeah, it's all about Killer Watt. Everything else are just spinning plates. It's just like action for the sake of action. And, but hey, I like Jerry Duggan, and he's a friend of a friend in real life. So I will never totally bag on Jerry Duggan's work. I would rather say nothing about a bad Duggan work than say something close to trashing it. And I don't usually say things that trash stuff, even if I'm blocked by a creator. I'll still, if it's strong and it's good, it's strong and it's good. The story and its art stand on its own, Wolverine number 11, the other shoe drops in the last page reveal, and it had to be something like this, a hologram or a psychic attack, a manipulation. Nothing that Logan's been seeing for the past 3 issues has been real. Jason Wingard, mastermind, has been behind everything. And this, I haven't read much Saladin and Ahmed. Besides this and Daredevil, I'm getting the feeling he's a bit of a hack. A lot of books this week are great examples of Marvel giving assignments to fill shelves. There's no reason for this book to exist beyond a publisher doing its job to provide to the consumers in their marketplace. That's the only reason why this book is being published. Like I said, I read 87 books this month. Most of them were Marvel books. Probably about 65. And most of those books aren't good. And out of all of those books, I'm only buying 3. Ultimate Spider-Man, which is wrapping up at $24. So this has been like about $100, well, I did the math. It's going to cost me $119.76 for 24 issues at $4.99 of Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cicchetto's Ultimate Spider-Man. And that's $59.88 a year on one title. And it probably won't matter anything. But I'm buying Ultimate Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk by Philip Kennedy Johnson with most of the work by Nick Klein. Love that comic. And then there's Wolverine Spider-Man by Mark Guggenheim and the insane art by Kari Andrews. So those are at least the 3 Marvel books I'm reading. And that's 3 out of like 60 odd, probably it's almost 70. Let's call it 70 Marvel books I read this month. I could go back and count. I should have a better count. I got that written down, but I don't even want to think about it. Ultimate cash grab. Our friend AL lost all of her comics in a fire recently. I lost all my X-Men Legends by Brett Booth in the fire. I don't have time to look for them right now, but they were the last good X-Men I've read. Interesting. Let's see. Oh, I guess you want to see what I bought at the local comic book shop. They're having an 11-day sale. 30% off of new and old comics. 20% off of all trade and graphic novels. Card packs and supplies. 20% off of supplies. I should get some boards and bags. 30% off of action figures, t-shirts, plus almost everything else. No double discounts, new arrivals, prior purchases, subs, items on hold, and gift certificates excluded. Ooh, I have a gift certificate. And that's how I was going to buy something. Items on hold and gift certificates excluded. So I can't use my gift certificate during the sale? Is that it? Oh. Some items in Quincy Silver Gold Room, plus other Silver Bronze Age comics, may be excluded. No rain checks. That's the sale running. So I went on Saturday. I had to go to the post office after Wes is Thinking Critical. Did you all see that? I was dressed up as Robin. I had my Robin cosplay on for 17 minutes. I didn't want to be on. It was just a goof. I mean, it wasn't. It was kind of for because it's San Diego Comic-Con, and it's cosplay. I got this wonderful Robin cosplay, and I never get to use it. So I was just like, I'm in the green room, and Wes comes to the show. He was like, "You look like a moron," and I just laughed. It was just like because we bust balls, and but no, I ditched it about minute 18, and it was fun for a couple of minutes. It really was, because I want to have fun with this. This is and I'll do that. So we got 3 floppies this week. We got Huck, Big Bad World, issue number 3, by Mark Miller. My favorite. It's not my favorite Mark Miller book, but Huck 1 wasn't either, and but I'm taking a chance on it. I'm buying it, and plus, my favorite part of Miller World books on Dark Horse is the last page or two, and it's Emily Brooks Miller, and it's Bird Dad. Love Bird Dad. It's a little bit absurd. It's a little bit abstract, and it's a little bit abstract. It's a little bit absurd. It's about a bird. It's about a dad who's a bird. It's Bird Dad. And this is okay. I mean, it's not my favorite. I got Green Lantern number 25, milestone issue. Beautiful wraparound cover. Gorgeous colorist. Let's see, what does that say there? Legacy 592. 8 more issues. We're going to have issue 600, which is going to be like this is the Starbreaker supremacy begins. So that's hopefully going to be just in time for the fulfillment of this Starbreaker supremacy story. That might be the finale. They're trying to make new batteries for the emotional spectrum. We get Aya from the animated series. That's great. You know who that is? That guy over there, the domino mask and the silver? That is Dan Garrett, the Silver Age original Blue Beetle. And this is his new character and his introduction into this continuity of the DC universe. He's the Silver Scarab. And that goes back to Infinity Incorporated. That was Hector Hall's power and code name, Silver Scarab. He was the son of the Golden Age, Carter and Shiara Hall. Hector Hall. And he's the Infinity Incorporated. They were the second generation of after the JSA of Earth 2, originally pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths. And Hector Hall was married to Lyda Trevor, who was the daughter of Diana Prince, Wonder Woman, and Steve Trevor, Golden Age. Their son, Daniel Hall, was born in the Dreaming, in between worlds, and became the second Dream, inheriting. He's the Sandman, Daniel Hall. Yeah. Oh yeah, Green Lantern. This is a fun comic book. Jeremy Adams is on the top of his game. It's decent. You know what I mean? Look, vibrant colors, big fights, action scenes. This is fun, and keeps me coming back every month. I'm a huge Green Lantern fan. Pick of the week though is Superman 28. The Legion of Darkseid finally being revealed, pulling together some strands with what was previewed in the All In special last year, and the Absolute world as well. Great Dan Mora art. Great. Look at this splash page. This is Evil Saturn Girl. Great. All right. Well, that's about it. My voice is giving out. And well, have a great week. Have a great day. We'll see you during the week with tomorrow. We've got the Smoking Puck, my hockey column on vlog form. Then we have Street Smarts for the Single Soul. And we're going to have a gratitude list or two. And then we'll see you on Saturday at Wes's Thinking Critical at 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern for Comics Aficionados. And next week, right here at 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern the Super Sully Sunday stream. Thank you so much for everyone that tunes in. God bless. Namaste. Good luck. And we will see you in the funny pages. Ciao. Bye-bye.